Satnam, everyone. Hello and welcome to the stream. Satnam Infinite Stories. Hello, good afternoon. Good to see you here. I'm glad that you can join us. So today we are going into part 2 on the mind games. And if you haven't watched part 1, I recommend that you watch that one before. Even though today I'm going to do a little bit of review of what we saw in the last video. It was an unfortunate ending of the stream. Last video, I touched a button that probably I shouldn't touch in the keyboard. I didn't even know that there was a button assigned to closing the session. And I closed the session accidentally. But it was good that we stopped at that time because it was already long. And I feel that we can still cover a lot today. Satnam Sohail, good to see you as well. Good to see you here. Satnam, everyone. So let me just say, we're going to review a little bit of what we saw. I will just show the diagram that we did the last time. I'm going to repeat it again, but do it in a more structured way. I think it's going to look better at the end. I feel, after I did it, I was like, I think we can improve this and make it a bit more structured. So I'm going to work on that today. And I'm not going to go throughout the whole explanation of why do I put something where we have already seen it in the previous diagram. But I'm going to complement this diagram with some of the mind games that are very important and that are missing. And then we're going to talk about what yoga can do for us in regards to this point. So let me just emphasize, mind games for me is one of the most important aspects that you need to work out first in the spiritual path. This is one of the first things we need to deal with, because if you don't deal with the mind games, they are going to be sabotaging you all along the way, all throughout the path. They're going to be always stopping you in one way or another. And you're always going to feel like tied down, like if you were with the handbrake on, in the car, like you're driving with the handbrake on and you have to take it off, let it go, and then move on. And otherwise, every time we talk about anything, empathy, compassion, whatever, then some mind game is going to go in the middle and it's going to distort our perception. So mind games are critical. And that's why I'm so excited that we can go into this. I've been looking forward to actually doing this video for a long time in this channel. So I'm excited that we can do this today and complete what we had started in the last week. So let's go straight away. Let me remind you, the mind plays games with us. And we don't even realize it. And we don't know the rules of the games. And we are tied down and addicted to them. Let's say this is like gambling, right? We are addicted to the mind games of the mind. And while we play these mind games, this is going against our best interest, let's say. So there is a number of mind games. They all kind of group together and they form a gang. And I would say that a lot of it starts from the perspective that we are on number 7. 7 is mind. We are on top of this 7. We are looking at the world. And when we look at the world, we judge. We meet some sort of judgment. I already did in the other video. I talked about how judgment doesn't necessarily have to be something bad. However, out of this judgment, there is a lot of things that come out that can be challenging for us and definitely very karmic. So I said there is going to be a gang of friends. When you call one, all of them come together, and you cannot just allow one through the door, because then all the others come together as well. So this is the gang. It's not just about repeating this, it's about synthesizing it and hopefully getting more clarity. I am getting more clarity as I'm explaining it. I've taught this topic a few times within the context of Karam Kriya trainings, but this is my first time doing this kind of diagram, and I think it's going to help a lot. I didn't even think about doing a mind map, but then as we started talking the last week, the mind map kind of occurred. So this is my first time getting my ideas so clearly like this mind map. Yeah. So the first is the judge. And out of this judge, there's going to be a lot of things that are going to come out of it. So the judge there is two things with the judge. One is some kind of judges, they set up the rules and the laws that we all have to follow. So this man-made laws, yeah, but I'm going to call them rules. Whoops, okay, rules, yeah. So these rules are set up by the judge, and then also when we have a person that is going to be judged, they are going to be checked, these rules are going to be checked to see whether the person is going to be declared innocent or guilty. And so out of this judgment coming from the judge, then let's remember there is two attitudes that you're going to get out of that. He's going to say, you are the victim of a crime, or you are the perpetrator, and therefore you are guilty. Yeah, the guilty. Yeah, guilty. So these are the first two immediate results of judging something right or wrong. And if something was done by somebody that was wrong, then they are the guilty ones. And if that thing is done unto you, you are the victim. And yet, when I talked about this the other day, I mentioned how both of them actually experience shame and pride. So you can be a victim and experience shame, but you can also be a victim and be proud of what you've suffered, so that you play on the victim role to try to get pity out of people. So I'm not going to assign shame to victim and pride to guilt, because nor the other way around either, because you can be either. You can go both ways. I already explained this in detail in the other video, so I'm not going to do it again. But let me just say that out of this shame, this is kind of connected also to being the inferiority complex and the superiority complex. If you put yourself above others, you're going to feel pride. If you put yourself below, you're going to feel shame. And this is just a consequence that there is a platform of elevation, and somebody is being judged and somebody is the judge, or somebody is above and somebody is below. Yeah. And pride and shame are going to manifest in this way. All right. Well, this judge sets up these rules, and then there is a number of other sub-personalities. This is like little personalities that are going to activate based on the rules that we have inside. And this is like, one of them will be the rescue team. This is going to be rescuer and the rescued. Yeah, so there's two roles. There's the one who is rescuing and the one who is being rescued. And then there's also going to be those who play the role of the police, those who are always policing others, checking whether they do something right or wrong. And then I mentioned that there would be also out of the, if the police capture somebody and they are guilty, they are going to be put into a prison and maybe executed. But so there's the punisher, or the executioner, and the jailer. And today I'm going to flesh out much more what happens when we go into this mode in our mind, yeah? What kind of form does it take? Let's go little by little. Let's start with the rescuer and the rescued, yeah? So the person who is the one doing the rescuing, they are going to be, there is a certain, always looking for what is right, for what is just to the people, looking for injustices and trying to serve them, make them right. So there is this, there is a game of self-righteous, yeah? Being self-righteous. You know what is right, you know what the rules are, and you are trying to make things right. Yeah? And you don't care whether these rules are true or not. I mean, the moment you set them up in your mind, you are your own judge, then you act accordingly, and you just have this position of total authority and self-righteous. Yeah. Then I'm going to tell you, after we finish with the list of the mind games, we're going to see what yoga can do on every one of the levels, of the mind map that we're going to get out of here. So they are going to, through this self-righteousness, they are going to exert whatever force they have in trying to seek some form of compensation for those who were the victims, those who suffered. So seek some compensation. If you're looking for compensation, that's a mind game. Yeah. So this is the kind of tips that we can look. After we get the whole list, then we can say, well, if I'm playing this, if I feel shame, if I feel pride, this is a mind game, and this should be a tip for us to pay attention. So the rescuer, this is some of the attitudes that he's going to have. Now, some other, I'm going to put it on the side, a particular kind of archetype that manifests as the rescuer. This is the role of the therapist. Or the helper. Yeah, there was some comments on the video from last week. I haven't replied yet, but I read them. But how annoying can it be when somebody's trying to help you and you are not asking for help? Yeah. So this we have to be very careful with the world of therapists. I have nothing against therapists. I do therapy myself, but this is a very easy trap to fall, that you are helping and you are rescuing the person. Yeah. So that would be a mind game. We talked about this in the last video. And from these therapies, there can be a number of mind games that stem out of this. The therapist may be playing a game to try to show or try to be seen as the rescuer. So you go into this role and you try to let them see how good a person you are, that you are helping them. So it's this seeking for approval, seeking for attention. Let me put that in another color. Seeking approval or attention. Yeah, so some people play the role of rescuing others to get their approval, to get their attention, to get their love. Yeah. Seeking these things. Yeah. And okay. There's another thing that therapists and helpers do on their way to rescue the person who is suffering, which is giving them some sort of passive hope. Now, it's quite funny because some of these words may look like very positive, like hope. But actually, passive hope, what I call passive hope, is something that is in which you are resigned to your fate and you just well, let's hope things get better, right? And you're in a passive state and you don't act and you don't do whatever you can to move things into a greater, to a best state, let's say. No, what can we do? What are we responsible of? What do we have the capacity to change? And how can I move myself to do something with that? And why do I put it here in the world of therapy? Is because very often when somebody goes to a therapy, they go from a position of passivity. Go give me a massage. Go give me a pranic healing session or a Reiki session or even going to a tarot cards. Yeah, they are passives and they wait for somebody to tell them that their life is going to be better, that everything is going to be better, and then they're like hoping that things change. Well, that kind of hope is a mind game. Yeah, it's a passive state that doesn't make you move towards your destiny. There's a kind of hope that is dharmic, there's a kind of hope that is karmic. Like many of these mind games, just like judgment, there is a judgment that is karmic, there is a judgment that is dharmic. And this is what we need to find out. This is what we need to do, explore. This is why we are talking about this in these videos. Yeah. All right, here we have some of the games. And okay, I think this is enough. On the side of the rescued, the person who is being rescued, yeah, who is the, let's say, the victim. How do I put it? I'll put it like this. The attitude that they generate, the rescuer is towards self-righteous and seeking compensation. The attitude of the rescued one is very often complaining. Yeah. And with the complaint also comes blaming. Blame, name, shame, yeah? Shame others, yeah? I know it's connected to shame, but anyway. So complaining, I think I already mentioned this in the other video. There's nothing good about complaining. Complaining is just a mind game. If there is something wrong and we can do something about it, let's do something about it. Don't be passive. Don't just hope things get better. This is the passive hope I was referring to. But don't also just complain about it, because then you are just bringing more negativity and it doesn't help. It's just more negative energy. Well, okay, that's interesting. These three things, blame, name, and shame, they are also kind of connected to the police. That's something that the police does, yeah? They have to, they are noticing that somebody doesn't follow the rules, and therefore they are going to blame them, they are going to name them, they are going to shame them, they are going to bring them to justice, bring them to the judge, in front of the judge to find out whether they are guilty of some crime. So these three are also the game that the police plays. Yeah. Now, police, when you are affecting the role of the police on yourself or on others, there is another of the mind games that is very, very powerful, which comes up, which is, look, if we are policing everything that is not right, everything that doesn't follow the rules, then we become really let's say we are looking for perfection. Perfectionism, yeah? So who is perfect? Who is following all the rules absolutely 100%? The rules that we established, not the rules, divine laws. No, this is like man-made rules, right? So as soon as we detect some kind of rules, then perfectionism comes in and the police is there. That's why I was mentioning the last day that as soon as you learn mind games, you have to be very careful not to become your own police on yourself, putting the rule that you should not do any mind game. Because then perfectionism is going to kick against you, and then you're going to feel guilty about having mind games. And then you're like, oh no, I'm having this mind game again, I'm complaining about something, and then you're identifying, oh yeah, I remember Ardaas talked about complaining. Yeah, I'm feeling complaining. Oh my God, I'm having a mind game. And then you feel ashamed. Yeah, the police in you is making you feel ashamed of that. So we have to be very careful of this perfectionism, because this is what it takes us towards what we were seeing here. I'm just putting this much more clearly, yeah? The expectations, the assumptions, all these things, yeah? So expectations. Yeah, there's a number of expectations. I'm not behaving according to them. That's why I'm feeling the perfectionism is kicking in and I feel intolerant towards what I did. Assumptions. Like the assumption that I can change something just because I saw it. Not just because I notice that I'm complaining, I can change it immediately. Then I cannot, then one day I'm complaining, I didn't change it, then I feel guilty again. Fantasy, illusion, and projection, illusion, projection. These are all grouped together, linked to this perfectionism and to this police. Yeah, I have an illusion of how the world is, and then I'm policing the world whether it's false according to my illusion, my projections, my fantasies. Yeah, and this is, as soon as we detect something is not right, then another of the subpersonalities of this police kicks in. I will call it the investigator, the police investigator, yeah? This is the one that is up here in the other diagram, yeah, reasoning and justifying, yeah? This is the one who is going to gather all the proofs to then go to the judge and show how guilty somebody is. So this is the one that is going to try reasoning, explaining, justifying. And I mentioned in the other video, justifying is a really strong one, and this will come up when we go into the 7 steps to heaven and hell, another video that we will go soon after this one. Excusing, finding excuses for yourself or for others. That kind of comes also under the police. Yeah, you see something wrong, but then you're like excusing them for whatever reason you find appropriate. And then you have to gather all the proofs and demonstrate innocence or guilt. And we play this game all the time, especially within couples or in families or with friends. They are talking, and as they are talking, we are gathering proofs, and we are taking note. Oh, they said this, they said that. Yeah, this also goes falling into the work of the investigator, yeah? Recording, keeping a list of all the things that were wrong, yeah? And you're making this list big enough, and maybe you're not even saying anything, and you're waiting for the next time that we have an argument. I have my big list I'm going to throw on you, yeah? Do you remember you did this, and that, and that, and that, and you give your reasons why this was wrong, and you explain all the reasons why they are wrong, and yeah. And you utilized particularly the intellectual mind. This is a lot about the mind, and particularly the intellect, yeah? And this is, you're going to be rationalizing stuff. Yeah, reasoning and rationalizing to maybe, why do you do this? Often, let me just put it with another color, like here, like seeking approval. The intention often is to maybe convince the other that either you are right or that they are wrong, or whatever reason you want to say something to make them change their mind, to manipulate them. Or just preaching, which is kind of connected to the self-righteous up here, yeah? So you are preaching why you think you know the truth, yeah? And they don't. It's quite heavy, isn't it? I mean, this is a really heavy topic. It's really very, very heavy. So not very nice at all. All right. Enough about the police. The punisher and executioner. This is a really, really nasty, a particularly nasty one, sadistic aspect of ourselves. Now, here is where self-harm comes. And it can be physical, mental, emotional, self-harm, and also, I see a comment. Oh. Criticism fit there also. Thank you, Infinite, for your contribution. Yes, criticism. That is, where do I put it? Yeah, here, I will put it here. Yeah, I think it's a good place. You throw the criticism, yeah? So the punisher is like we self-harm, this is a extreme form of punishment towards ourselves for feeling guilty. Because remember, all this is happening within our minds. So that means it's not something just that we do unto others. We are doing all these roles unto ourselves. So if we feel guilty for whatever reason, which may not even be true, but if we feel guilty, and then there's going to be the judge and the police and the punisher, these are all going to trigger, and then we're going to see, well, guilty people need a punishment. And so you may end up self-punishing yourself, self-sabotaging or self-harming, self-sabotage as well. And the nasty thing about this is when something traumatic is experienced in childhood, when you're a boy or a girl and you have an experience that is traumatic by itself, and you are in no control of it. Maybe it could even, be your parents getting divorced, but could be anything, could be much worse. Could be that somebody is damaging you for whatever reason. Somebody is doing something to you, and no reason really. They don't need any reason. Some people are just sadistic, but somebody is harming you in some way. When you are a child, you don't have the power of discrimination to realize that this is not about you. This is that they are perturbed. So when a child feels that they are doing something abusive onto them, sometimes the child feels that maybe they did something wrong. Because otherwise, why would an adult do this to me? Because it doesn't make sense in their innocent minds, right? So they feel guilty. They feel like maybe I did something wrong. And that guilt crystallizes on the subconscious. And then on that subconscious level, then that kid goes on to self-harm and self-sabotage. So even you may grow up out of that experience, out of that life, out of that family, out of that context. You may be in a very healthy context now, but the subconscious self-sabotage may still be there if you don't heal it. And then when an opportunity arises for you to grow in your field, to become the leader of your field, to become the spokesperson of your group, to ascend within the social hierarchy, or you're in your company to get a better job, get more money, whatever situation arises that is good for you, and then you don't take it. So you sabotage yourself, and then you will use excuses to say this, and those excuses that you will use, excusing was already here, but the excuses that you use to self-sabotage yourself, they are your jail. And there are generally three of them. This is really important, guys. All this is critical to our well-being. Yeah, I was doing the thumbnails for these videos, and how can I convey that our sanity depends on this? This is the scheme. This is the drawing. This is the sign, the map of insanity. We need to get out of this map. Yeah, I'm gonna show what yoga does for every one of these steps. But if we don't deal with this is insanity. And I've seen it. I remember one particular case, a young girl. She was. I guess she got divorced very early when her husband or the father of the creature went away, and she had a baby. It was just newborn, and she found herself alone with a baby in a very small town, living with a lot of people who were, according to her, doing a lot of judgment on her. And at the first times I spoke to her, and she would be in a very negative pattern of complaining and look at the people, how they are looking at me, and they are judging me, and they are saying this about me. And so very much concerned about how people look at her. But it was just negativity and just complaining. She was just taking the role of the victim. But over the years, I saw her a few times, and over the years, rather than saw her, I spoke to her. I didn't really see her physically. It was over the phone. But I had the opportunity to listen to her a few times, and 2 years later, I can almost guarantee she had a mental disease. She had some form of mental, I don't know how to say it, but affliction. No, so I don't know if she was a little bit psychotic or a little bit. I don't know. I'm not a psychologist, so I'm not specialized on this. But she had developed some mental illness, and her conversation was like sometimes she would say like 2 sentences and repeat them again and again and again, which she didn't used to do before. So she was gradually losing her own sanity, and she was just. Every time she would go into the complaining, she would, dig the hole a bit deeper. So that was really sad to see, and to experience. And some of the things that are very often that become around jails, and then this is very tough because, look, when a judge emits a judgment, they say, look, you are guilty, okay? You stole from that person, you are guilty, you go to prison for 3 months, and then you come out and we will see. Or 6 months, or 1 year, or 3 years. But there is always a sentence. Now, when our ego mind emits a judgment on ourselves, there is no sentence attached. And that's horrible because we may have done something bad in the past. Fine. We all make mistakes, right? And, it's an opportunity to learn. But if you make a mistake 40 years ago and you keep today remember it, today still affecting you, today still feeling guilty about that, that's not healthy. What's happening? The happening is that there was no sentence. It said, go to prison, you are guilty, and you feel guilty or you're alive. And then there is these 3 things that are very powerful. I'm not capable. I'm not allowed. And I don't deserve. Reflect upon this for a moment, yeah? I'm not capable. I'm not allowed. I don't deserve. Yeah, I don't deserve. I've been judged. I have to punish myself. I am in a jail. I don't deserve happiness. I don't deserve love. I'm not allowed. I shouldn't. Yeah, this is linked to I shouldn't. I'm not capable. And this I'm not capable, it's often translated as I'm not X enough. I don't think I can put enough here. I'll put it small. I'm not smart enough. I'm not clever enough. I'm not trained enough. I haven't been I don't know. The person who needs to keep overcompensating, remember, compensating by maybe I need to do another course, another training, another workshop. Yeah, I need to read another book because I don't feel capable by myself. Infinite Story says, does rehabilitation happen when you realize you are in your own prison of your own making? Yes, and you emitted your own sentence. So you have to go back to the judge and change the sentence in a way. And you have to decide that something has to change. I will go into that right now. I'm almost finished with the diagram, and then I will go into what do we have to do for the rehabilitation to happen. But yes, definitely, you have to realize you're in your own prison and you have the key, which it was always like this. You should have the key to your own prison. Yeah. This is the jailer puts you in a jail. There is a little lock, but who has the key? Yeah, we have the key. This is something I was mentioning the other day about the internal locus of control, yeah? Being able to control ourselves and what's happening within us. So that's going to be connected to this. I'm going to go in a moment to the rehabilitation aspects. Let me just complete the diagram. I think it's almost complete, but what else would be missing? Let me see. Let's remember how it was. Panel share. Oh, then the mask. We have to do the mask. Yeah, this, that, this, here. Oh, the reward as well. Compensation or reward would be here. Eh? Compensation and reward. Yeah, looking for being rewarded. The complaint is also to try to get some pity or some reward. Let me put it assigned to this somehow. So out of this shame and pride, can you see? Yeah. We create some form of mask. This is the mask, which is basically lies. And there's 3 different kinds of lies. Sometimes we think, no, I don't tell lies. Tormentor, says Infinite Stories. Yes, tormentor is linked to the punisher and executioner. Yeah. So the lies, they're sometimes is okay. Let's say the 3 things: omission. How is it? Exaggerations or minimizations, yeah. And what was the other one? Distortions. I think it was these 3. If I remember correctly, this is from NLP, from Neuro-Linguistic Programming. As far as I remember, I think it was these 3. Omissions, exaggerations, distortions, something like that. And then again, so why do we put this mask and why do we tell these lies out of this shame and this pride? So maybe we are looking for, let's say, maybe again to manipulate. Like, where was it? Right here. Yeah, to manipulate. And, it means we have a hidden agenda, yeah? Yeah. But maybe also we exaggerate what is happening to us. Oh, look at me, how horrible is my life. And again, seeking or avoiding. Yeah. Avoiding, seeking or avoiding these things here. You remember the approval and attention and love and pity, being seen, all these things, yeah? So you put a mask to seek pity or to avoid pity, to be seen or to avoid being seen, yeah? To have attention or for people not to look at you, to hide, yeah? You put a mask. That's a very common one. And I experience that a lot in yoga, yeah? We do yoga, and when you do yoga, your light starts to come out. And, we generally dress with lighter colors, and we call upon the light of the soul, right? It's like a prayer we do. And that's, your light starts to come out. And as your light comes out, people look at you, people see you. And then when the people look at you, whatever pattern you have been doing of avoidance, it triggers. And you're like, oh, people are seeing me. I can tell myself wearing the turban. There is a number of things why the turban is useful for meditating and for teaching. It contains your ideas, and it brings the energy up. And there's a lot of things that are happening energetically. But to me, the turban, the thing that it did the most, and I don't wear it all the time, and most of the time I don't wear it, yeah? But sometimes I would come out of one yoga class and I would go to another one, and I didn't want to have to take it off and put it again, because it takes quite a long time to tie these 5 meters of cloth. And walking in the street with a turban on, I tell you, there's been nothing more therapeutic than that, because people tell you all sorts of things, especially kids. I had to pass for a good number of years, I was teaching in a yoga center that was right next to a school. I had to pass in front of the school every day, right at the moment when the kids were going in. So I heard a lot. And it was like checking, am I still feeling inadequate, feeling all these issues from a childhood, and feeling ugly, and feeling whatever I was accumulating in my subconscious. I was being confronted with that when people would say insults or whatever. So those patterns come up, and then you realize how much of your attitude has been to avoid being seen. For example, I used to walk extremely fast, almost running. So I would come out of a train and I would be the first one out. And it was I didn't like being with a lot of people around. And that was linked to this avoidance. So when you start doing yoga and a little bit of your light comes out, then people look at you and then you want to hide. And it's a trick to realize that this is a game, this is a mental game, and you have to relax yourself and allow yourself to be seen, and then also to be invisible, because it's the teachings passing through you, right? But there is this double thing that you have to allow. So there we go. Yeah, seeking and avoiding, all those things that I already put here. Yeah. All right, this is the. I cannot even cover it with one screen. Let's see if I can zoom out a little bit. There. Okay, so this is the mind map of our tragic games that we play. And here, now, let's take a moment and let's see what yoga can do for us. Excuse me. Well, first, one of the things linked to this seek and avoidance of attention and approval and all those things, one of the things that we can do here is the reference should be internal. So am I going to evaluate my attitude or myself according to what others say about me? Or is the reference something that is internal? And internal can be, I can align myself to some yogic principles, right? But I internalize those principles in me, and then I do the reference checking within me. It's not about how people see me, it's going to affect how I see myself. Somebody may say something to you, fine, you listen to it, you check internally, is there something valuable in there? If there is, I'll take it. If there is not, I'll let it go. And that's having this internal reference, yeah? Very important. And well, I would say this whole thing, all of it, all of this takes forgiveness. And I will do a video on this. So one of the videos for number 7 is there is a certain number of steps that we can take to get to the forgiveness. Yeah, it's difficult if somebody tells you, well, you just have to forgive yourself. Well, how do I do that, right? And so fortunately there is a step-by-step process to get there. And I'm also excited that we're going to cover this very, very soon. So forgiveness, what happens with forgiveness is that you cure both of these symptoms, the victim and the guilt. Because victim means that somebody was the guilty one and you were the one who suffered out of that person. So you can forgive that person, right? And if you feel guilty, then you feel that you are the one who did something wrong, then you can forgive yourself. So forgiving others and forgiving yourself, and in the path forgiving God, forgiving your destiny, forgiving a number of things, that's going to heal all this side of the mind games, which is a lot. Yeah, and remember, out of this victim and guilt comes many of these. So that's why we say forgiveness is the first step in the spiritual path. So this is going to be key. And forgiveness, it takes also a certain capacity to first assume responsibility for what you did, because it's not just about, or for what somebody else did, okay? It's not just, well, I forgive them and that's it. We're going to go into this in the video on forgiveness. Now it would take too long. But yeah, it's not just about, carta blanca, we say in Spanish, like you are given total freedom to do whatever you want and I will just forgive you. Well, it doesn't work like that. There is a concept of responsibility. So it's not about guilt. Yeah? It's not about who is to blame. Remember, no blaming, yeah? But there is responsibility. And also, therefore, there is responsibility about myself. So that me taking responsibility for myself and checking and making myself accountable, that's also what is going to be connected to the internal reference. So you see how it's connected, yeah? Let's continue. Well, for the self-righteous aspect, the very, very, very simple, humility. Yeah? Get off your high horse, right? You are the just one. Yeah, you are going to be rescuing those who cannot defend themselves, and you are, in your own crusade. And there is this. Sometimes you see that in demonstrations as well. Yeah, when people go into the streets with this, with some slogan, there is a lot of me here, look at me, how pure I am because I am complaining against this, and the world is horrible because they are doing these things. This is a lot of feeling superior, right? Superiority, one above the others. Like the humility, simple. Yeah, nothing else to say. Very simple concept, humility. Seeking compensation. Well, there's something else here. Acceptance of karma. Now, karma is always of three levels, outside, in your words and in your thoughts, but no matter what we said, things come back to us. Okay, so let's say something happening to you. Somebody's maybe insulting you. All right, somebody's insulting me. What do I do now? Am I going to seek for some form of compensation because they said that to me? Is as if you were in preschool, teacher, that girl has said that nasty thing to me. What are you looking for? You're looking for some compensation. All right, there is responsibility. The one who is saying that is responsible, but let's not forget that if we are hearing those words, it's because it's our karma. We probably said something nasty about somebody, and that's just coming back to us. So when we are experiencing some form of karma and we feel the victim, let's stop ourselves for a moment, and if we can see a more cosmic perspective of the world and our lives and our experience, we realize that this law of karma doesn't have those who are, let's say, their favorites, right? It's not like you are not God's favorite just because this is happening to you. Come on. This is the most just law that there is. You do something, it comes back to you. Simple. You're doing something, it comes back to you. It's almost like a universal physics law, yeah? So, if something is now coming to me, it's coming back to me, which means that it originated in me at some point, which means it was just my karma all along. So if somebody is insulting me, well, this is my karma. Why am I going to be looking for compensation when I am actually receiving what I gave first? So this is attitude of accepting karma. It's a responsible attitude of looking forward, looking towards the future, rather than anchored in the past karmas. Let's continue. Let's take now this region here, the region of the passive hope. Blah, blah, blah. Maybe like this. This is going to be, it's not about helping. I already covered this in the other video. It's not about helping, it's about serving. And it's always easier if you do service for those who you don't know, so it's better to do service to anonymous people, like I mentioned in the other video, no? Serving food to the homeless, whatever you can do service with, making it service, rather than personally involving yourself with somebody that you know and trying to help them. That's not going to be neutral. You're not going to be neutral. So selfless service means neutral. And also, rather than passive hope, I'm going to put here prayer, which is a very interesting concept in yoga. It's not the same praying as meditating, and we could always find a balance between prayer and meditation. And I'm not going to go any deeper into that today. Well, complaining goes back to this accepting the karma. So I would also put it here. But let me do it like this. Complaining, blaming, naming, shaming. Again, this acceptance, and let me say it, self-responsibility. I'm starting to write very quick, and then it's probably not so easy to read. Apologies. Yeah, so self-responsibility and, well, forgiveness and acceptance is going to be linked as well here. If we come to this area here, the perfectionism and the investigator and the rationalizing, what can I say about this one? Well, this is linked to the acceptance of the karma, and actually this is linked to the forgiveness as well. It's kind of in between both. And we will see, when we do the video on the forgiveness, we will see that there is three steps that we have to take in forgiveness, and the 3 steps are designed to work on this area, which is recognize, number 1, number 2, accept, and number 3, agree. And these 3 steps, this is not the whole path to forgiveness, but this is very critical, important part of the path. And so imagine you have some expectations, some assumptions of how things had to go, but then things happen in a different way. You have to recognize that things happen in a different way, right? And then you can justify and make excuses for yourself or for the other, or you can accept it, right? And then you can keep track of everything to, in the future, criticize and preach somebody or manipulate somebody, or you can agree that things happen the way it happened and let it go. So these steps on the path to forgiveness are critical for the rehabilitation that Infinite Stories was asking before. Yeah, so the rehabilitation has to go through going through these steps. Going through the steps and going through the forgiveness, finding the right rule. I will come into this. This will be the last one I will come back to. Emitting a new ruling from the judge is going to be key to get out of prison. So we need to go through the forgiveness. Yeah, this is kind of like rehabilitation. Like you are in the prison, and then you have a sentence, and then after a number of years or whatever time it was, then they come and they check. Are you rehabilitated? Can you go back to society? And then if so, then you are forgiven, and then you can come back. So this would be kind of like an internal check on myself. Can I let go of whatever happened? Have I learned my lesson? Yeah? Which is, by the way, why sometimes we don't let go of previous hearts, because we haven't learned the lesson. So we need to check first that we get the jewel, if there is any jewel, get it, learn whatever we have to learn from the karma. And this is also part of why we call this Karam Kriya. Yeah? Remember, Karam is the kind phase of karma. So something happened to you, there was some karma. Well, don't just seek for compensation, don't just complain about it, don't just blame somebody or you, but hold on, did you learn your lesson? Did you learn your lesson that you had to learn from the karma that you received? And if so, once you learn the lesson, then you can let go of whatever attachment you have, looking for compensation or giving yourself explanations or whatever masks you are still wearing. So I hope it's quite clear. Yeah. If so, then these two little things here, this is a lot about self-love. And starts with self-care. Because caring for yourself is a way to show that you love yourself. You know, when you are, it's too late, you should go to bed, but you decide that you're going to stay half more hour awake doing whatever, and then you know you're going to sleep worse and less time, and tomorrow you're going to wake up horribly, and you're going to feel bad all day, and then you're going to regret it, but you do it anyway. Okay, so then don't do it, right? Self-care would be, I know what is good for me. Diet is also a massive thing. Yeah, diet and exercise. We know what is good for us. We know that if I just did those things, my life could only improve, and yet we don't do them. Why? Because we don't care for ourselves. Why? Because we don't love ourselves enough. So self-love, starting with self-care, a good way to show our body that we loving ourselves, but also everything that is not allowing us to love ourselves, meaning those things we haven't forgiven, then we have to deal with the forgiveness. Yeah, if we don't forgive ourselves, we are not going to trigger the self-love. We try to make changes in our caring, in a self-caring, like we try to go to sleep in a more reasonable hour, we try to stop smoking, or we try to whatever diet you have to adjust, and then you do it for a few days or a few weeks, and then you fail. Why? Because still a part of you feels that you need to be punished, right? Or you are just lazy, okay? This yoga is not for the lazy one. In yoga, you have to commit yourself, and there is a lot to work on. Look at that map, yeah? Should we go for the last one? Well, I didn't write it here, but there's something coming with the rules. The rules are the obligations, the should, and the shouldn'ts, yeah? And the must. I should do this, I should do that. But I shouldn't. All this. These are the telltales of the rules, the man-made laws that we have created that are driving our judge. Okay, so they are very important when we say I shouldn't or I must. These are keys, yeah? So, two things. One, for this, let's remember that there is such a thing as hukam. Hukam is the divine will. There is a universal intelligence. There's a primary intelligence guiding everything. There is some intelligent force in this universe that is making things just work well. When we are in tune with nature around us, when we are in tune with ourselves, with our divine nature as well, things just flow. and everything is harmonic, and our life is just untangles itself, and we feel better, and we glow. Yeah, we grow and we glow, and we are shining, and it's wonderful. And when we get entangled into all these horrible mind games, it's quite the opposite. So let's remember there is such an intelligence, and if we listen to that intelligence through our intuition, we can perceive what is the will of that divine, or let's say primary intelligence, right? You know, I'm trying to find many words. At the end of the day, is God, but you can call it whatever you want. There is this divine intelligence, there is primary intelligence, there is universal consciousness, there is whatever you want to call it. And you can give it any name, Allah, God, or whatever. But there is some divine order, and we can live our life in harmony with that divine order, right? And that would be, rather than following these man-made rules, in alignment with these divine laws. Now, when we were doing this exercise, this is from a previous video on the principles and the virtues and the virus on the Mul Mantra. This is some divine guidance. And if we operate from this standpoint, life can only get better, right? With humility, with loyalty, with equality, with service, with self-sacrifice. These are only virtues that are gonna drive our life to a more dharmic place. Yeah. So, hukam. And finally, we come to the judge. And after we do all this, let's remember, it was from the judge that everything originated. So this is the starting point of all. And here, it's very simple. We cannot stop the judge. We cannot stop the judgment. But we can choose what kind of judgment can we emit. And so I'm going to tell you something. It was very interesting. I did meditation in a level 2 when I was as a student, yeah? Level 2 Kundalini Yoga. And there was this exercise that the wife of my teacher guided in class. And it was a visualization. There was a meditation, there was a pranayama, and then closing our eyes. And then we had to visualize ourselves when we were older. And then I could see myself like being an old man. And it was some shiny place. It felt like Italy. So it was like very beautiful and very shiny and light. And, you know, the sun is there. And I could see my children coming to me, which they were already like 40-somethings, or, you know, they were adults. They were coming to ask me for something. And they were telling me some issue that had arisen, and they were telling me their problems, right? And this happened, and this happened. And I was in my skin as an old man, looking at them, feeling my love for them, and just hearing all their problems, all the problems they've been having for a month, because we had not spoken for quite a while. And then I could hear them all. And within myself, all I felt was, it's fine. It's fine. It's fine. Whatever's happened, it's fine. It's very simple. Life is very simple. We complicate it a lot when we put our mind in the between. When we try to understand why things go in one particular way, when things are painful and when we suffer. But most of it, realizing that we are making ourselves suffer when we are falling in trap to this game, and we keep playing the game and playing the game, and it makes us suffer. But at the same time, you know what? It's also fine, because we will stop the game when we are ready to stop the game. And if we commit to that, slowly, making baby steps, it's fine. And at the end of the day, all these things, you know, every little thing that you complain about in the morning, the day at night, you know, the day that we're going to die, was it really, really that important? That thing that you argued with your partner, that was so painful, and then you had such an argument, and a few years later, you don't even remember what the argument was about. The day that you die, is it really going to be important? Or can you just say, it's fine? When you read the Bible, there is this passage, no, I think it's Genesis, when he said, no, God created the earth and the heavens and all that, all the animals. The 6 days, no? And on the 7th day, God looked everywhere and said, it's fine. It's good. And then he rested. So we want to find some rest in ourselves. And we have been through a war. This is a war. And this gang is living within us. Can we put it to peace? And if so, it's fine. That's all. That's all we need to say. It's fine. Whatever's happened, it's fine. That's what I got out of that meditation. And that's something that today helps me a lot. When there is something happening that it seems very unjust, why is this happening to me? Remind yourself that it's fine. And that's a good starting point to recognize, accept, and agree, and forgive, and living in the heart, and eventually taking care of yourself and finding love. That is all. It's fine. Thank you very much. I don't have any more to say on this today. I hope it was interesting to you, of service. This is, to me, super important video. This mind games is critical. I hope you got something out of that. What you can do to work on this, I didn't mention how to work on this now. I would choose one. And Infinite Story says, just trying to live in present moment with no judgment would be perfect. Yes, but Infinite Stories, hold on, because we emit judgments. We cannot just live without it. That's why not let the judgment be, it's perfect, right? You say, right? So not just try not to judge, but judge that everything is perfect the way things are. And then you just have to figure out why things had to happen this way. And then it will be perfect, yeah? It was interesting? Why you do? So how to work on this? What I would recommend, the way I did it is, I would take one, let's say complain. That's a good one to start with. And take a whole week, or maybe a whole month, and don't complain even a single time. Don't complain at all, 0, right? And then you try not shaming, or not feeling guilty, right? Or not feeling shame, or not feeling pride. Every time one of these, if you're having an expectation, if you're justifying yourself, spend a whole month paying a lot of attention. Don't do all of them at once, because then it's very difficult. Just choose one and say, okay, I'm going to work on justifying, and dedicate a whole month not to justify yourself. A whole month not to explain yourself, right? And then eventually, if you go through every one of these, then in a few years, you will master them, and then you will identify them as they are coming. And I'm not master of it, I'm not perfect, but it's fine. And I accept that it will, I'm slowly getting better at that, so that's enough for me. Yeah. So I hope it is of service to you. If anybody's watching this video and you haven't yet subscribed and you liked this video and you enjoyed the content, yes, you can subscribe. You can become members for the channel as well. I appreciate everyone supporting, like Infinite Stories. And also, the best thing you can do if you enjoy this content is to tell others. Because we cannot rely on the algorithm. Yeah, YouTube algorithm follows some rules that I have to be like really careful with the way I do videos. And I'm not doing very good videos for YouTube, because YouTube likes videos which are less than 20 minutes long. And look, I am incapable of doing that. So, and it wouldn't make justice if I did these 2 videos, which are an hour and a half each. If I had to do them in 10 different parts of 20 minutes, it wouldn't make sense to me. So because the YouTube algorithm is not in our favor, If you appreciated this content, share it with your friends, share it with your colleagues, with your students, if you are a teacher, and let's help grow this community. So until next time, I appreciate everybody here and everybody contributing. Satnam.